get started. You should be taking a look at the almost final draft of your What Does It Take to Win a War essay right now, or your economics essay. First of all, let's take a look at your MLA formatting. Now you do get 3 points for this, but it's pretty easy to do. Let's first take a look at your title. You should not have your title in any quotation marks. It should not be underlined. It should not be bolded. It should not be in any special font. It should be in the regular size, just size 12 that everything else is in. It should not be in italics. In other words, it should only just be your plain title. Now, the one title rule that you do need to pay attention to is capitalization. Always in capitalization of a title, you capitalize the first word, the first letter of the first word, the first letter of the last word, and important words in between. Typically, the articles like a, an, and the, or the prepositions like for, to, or in, are not capitalized. The title should be centered, maintaining your double space below the 4-line MLA heading, which is justified on the left and not indented, but above the body of the text. Alright, so that should do it for your title. Let's double check on your 4-line MLA heading. The first line of your heading should be your name. The second line for this project should be Leonard/Thompson. The third line is going to be the title of your, what the assignment is, or sometimes in MLA it's what the class is. For this purpose, I suppose we could just call it What Does It Take to Win a War? Hopefully you'll have something different for your own title, but if you don't, I don't really call that as much of a big deal right now. Okay, your spacing, the entire paper, read that in all capital letters, the entire paper should be only double spaced. So the heading is double spaced. The title is double spaced from the heading and between the text. Between paragraphs, you should only have it double spaced. You should not have any larger spaces in your paper. If you did write a works cited paper, that should actually be on a separate sheet. So just keep that in mind at the end. That was an optional part of this assignment. Okay, your heading, your spacing, and your title should be good. Now how about your font? You should have your paper in Times New Roman or Arial. It's all size 12 point. No changes from that. Your margin should be a standard 1 inch on all sides, and if you feel like your Google Doc is just not manageable, not working for you, you can always copy and paste what's in your Google Doc onto a Word document. You might be more familiar with some of the settings in the Word document. Either one is fine. Make sure that when you do get ready to print your paper out that you print 2 copies. Mr. Thompson will get 1 copy of the typed paper along with the content rubric and your completed outline, and you will put those 3 documents, each with your name on them, together for him. You'll also be turning in a copy of the paper to me along with the green rubric, the What Does It Take a War rubric that you're actually looking at right now. Okay, so now we're done with the first 3 points. Let's move on. I think it'll go a little faster. Don't panic. Okay, your introductory paragraph. Is it a funnel introduction? Did you start with a broader statement and then lead that down into a clear and underlined thesis statement that states your topics and the main point of your report? So your thesis statement that mentions leadership, motivation, and resources should not be the first sentence of your paper, but it should be the last sentence of your introductory paragraph. Please underline your thesis statement at this time. Okay. Your introductory paragraph should also be filled out, fleshed out, if you will. And so it should be at least 4 to 6 sentences, ideally. You're giving your reader background information that your reader needs to know in order to adequately read the paper. So say which war, which time period, put things in place for your reader. Okay, your first body paragraph should be about leadership, and you should have a nice clear topic sentence on your first paragraph that talks a little bit about leadership and the fact that you're going to talk about leadership in this paragraph. Most of you have probably chosen 2 people to talk about in the first paragraph, and therefore it would be completely appropriate to put both of those people's names into your first sentence, into your topic sentence. And then just make sure that you deal with those people in the order that you wrote them in the first sentence. So let's say you pick Thomas Jefferson and Nathan Hale, for example. So your topic sentence could be something about leadership and what a profound effect those two men had on what it took to win this war. Then you would first talk about Thomas Jefferson, and then you would talk about Nathan Hale. You want to make sure that you have enough content and enough resources in this paragraph. So you're going to have, there's your topic sentence, then you will have your discussion of your first person. You should have at least 2 different examples to support why you think that person's leadership affected the war. One of those 2 examples should be cited. Then you have a transition, like maybe in addition to this person was also a great leader in the war. So you can have a whole transition sentence or just a transition word. That's up to you. But then you're talking about your second person. You give 2 reasons, examples, details, proofs, whatever you want to call that, as to why that person was a leader in the war and how it affected the war, the outcome of the war. But make sure that one of your examples or quotes is indeed documented or cited. Now, if you look on the pink paper that I have given you, you'll see that that was the one about body paragraphs and quoting and paraphrasing, and you'll see that you put the quotation. If you're using a direct quotation, you have the quotation there, and then without any punctuation like a period or anything at the end of that, then you put a space, then parentheses, put your source number inside the parentheses, put your period after the parentheses. So your quotation mark goes after the quote, and then you have it followed by your parentheses. So your each body paragraph really should have the same setup here, including 2 different quotations or cites. If you're paraphrasing, that's okay too, but you still have to put that parenthesis at the end with the source number. Okay. All right, moving on to your second body paragraph. This one should be about motivation. Again, you want a topic sentence that includes the word motivation or a synonym for motivation somewhere in that topic sentence. You give your first example and 2 details supporting that example. Make sure that one of those 2 details is cited. Whether it's in direct quotation marks or paraphrased, it should still have the citation behind it. You have your second detail for motivation, your second example of something that motivated people. Maybe it's a person, maybe it's a document, maybe it's an event, and then you give two reasons that event, person, document motivated people to win the war, and then make sure that one of those 2 details is cited. And pause this at any time if you want to go back or make any changes. I'm going to go ahead and move on to our third body paragraph. This contains a clear topic and concluding sentence. Again, let's make sure that you're using the word either resources or materials or some kind of synonym in the topic sentence. Give 2 examples of the resources that were provided. And again, don't forget, why are they important? We're going for a deeper knowledge in this paper, not just your surface, shallow material. So 1 detail about the resources followed up with 2 examples of that. Same as you did in your leadership paragraph. You want to give lots of explanation here. At least one of those 2 should be cited, followed up by your second example of resources or how resources helped to win the war. 2 examples of those resources or 2 supports or 2 reasons why they were important, and then one of those should be cited as well. Try to remember throughout your body paragraphs in particular to use transition words. You do have a list somewhere in your binder of transition words. They would include words like first, second, and then consequently. There are different transition words for different purposes. All right, in your conclusion paragraph, I gave out a gold sheet today about your conclusion. Your conclusion is going to be in what we call inverted funnel format, which means it's really the opposite setup as your introductory paragraph. So instead of starting general and going to something more specific, you're starting with something very specific, in other words, restating your thesis statement, and then you're going to make it more broad. So for your conclusions paragraph, did you start with a restatement of your thesis? Do make sure that it's not just your thesis statement copy and pasted down here. That would be inappropriate. You need to change the wording. Go on to review or summarize your major points, supports, or proofs. And again, doing it in the same order that you talked about it in your paper will help with your overall organization. Then you offer some kind of an insight or reflection that comes from your discussion of the thesis. What does all of this mean? Why are these three elements so important in winning a war? Why should we care? Here's the part where you answer your "so what" question. Why is this important to me? What did I just do for my life after having read this paper? Your conclusion is probably going to be about 5 to 7 well-developed sentences, although there's going to be some variation on that as well. Okay, now we're moving on to the back of the rubric sheet to talk a little bit about style. Take a moment, you can hit the pause button if you need to. Let's try to make sure that you did not use the word I as a personal pronoun, that you avoided the word you. You can always try to say, one must do this or one should do this instead of you must do this. You want to avoid the word thing. Now that's a big one for me, so try to make sure you use the thesaurus and really think about what word would be appropriate to use there. If you've used any informal language like slang or cliches, this is probably a good time to make sure that you're deleting those and being a little bit more academic in your tone. You want to check your usage and make sure that you used words like there, and there, and to, and to correctly. And also, if you could, try to eliminate any contractions that you may have accidentally used. This would be a good time to do that as well. Your grammar. Complete sentences, no run-ons, no comma splices, no fragments, that you have proper agreement between your verbs and subjects, between your pronouns and antecedents, that you are using verb tense consistency, meaning most of your paper should be in the past tense. Now when you write about literature, we write in present tense, but when we're writing about history, obviously it is in the past, so we write about it in the past tense. And finally, your punctuation. You were given a quick guide to commas reference sheet. I'd love to see evidence that you have used it, so try to look that over in any remaining time. Get some help with punctuation. I don't want to see any run-on sentences or comma splices or just random commas thrown in there. We will go over the comma unit later in the year, but for now just try to use the quick guide to the best of your ability. If you know how to use semicolons, by all means, go ahead and try them out. No exclamation marks. This is a formal academic paper and it needs to have a formal academic tone. Therefore, sorry, no enthusiasm. It's boring. I know, it's okay. But your paper won't be boring because it'll be full of lots of great details, and I know we're going to be very proud of you. In fact, I'm hoping that as you look at the comments on the bottom of the rubric on the left-hand side, that you can say, yes, I had outstanding preparation. Yes, I used my time well and my resources. I had great diction, tone, and style. I didn't use any of those inappropriate words, and I really tried to kind of up my vocabulary a little bit on this project. And did I pay attention to MLA formatting? Did I take care of my sources, my documentation? Did I follow the rules on all of the handouts? I'd like to see great use of that. And also with your conventions, your grammar and punctuation. We'll be doing some peer editing in class as well. You have this screencast to help you out with some of the details. And so I really would like to see a great paper for this time, and I'm looking forward to reading them. Best of luck. All right, just to add a little bit, I'm going to back up a little bit to your Day 2 writing paper. This is the paper that I had copied for you on pink, so I'll just leave it on the screen there for a moment and let you take a look at that. We talked a little bit about possible introductions, using detail, keeping that formal tone, using a funnel introduction, underlining your thesis statement, reviewing what a thesis statement is. I gave you a couple of quotations that you could perhaps use in your paper. Again, if you need to stop on any of this, just pause the recording. Paraphrasing and quoting, this will be on your content rubric for social studies in particular. You want to make sure that you introduced your quotation or your paraphrase, that you copied it word for word with no errors in punctuation or spelling or anything else, or that if you paraphrased it, that you were accurate in that. And you want to also explain your quote. Even if sometimes it sounds a little simplistic, it's still better to explain it rather than leave your reader guessing as to whether or not you understand it. This is a particularly important part. This again tells you where to put the periods, where to put the quotation marks, where to put the citations. And keep in mind that we also talk about paraphrasing, the purpose of paraphrasing being to provide a deeper understanding. And on the very bottom, there's just a reminder about how much information and how many citations should be in each of your body paragraphs. Here is the gold paper that we went over today in class, What Does It Take to Win a War? A little bit more about the titles. I've already read that to you at the beginning of the screencast. The idea that you are telling us, showing us, and explaining to us the so what? Okay. And focusing on your essential question, what does it take to win a war? And then just again, your written examples of how to write a conclusion. Okay, and finally, here is a sample peer editing page. We'll try to do this in class as well, but you can always have a helpful reader give you some assistance outside of school or at school. This is coming to us from Team 2, and it is our peer editing page. Okay, so either circle yes or no and explain in the margins what's missing. This is a great resource that really matches the rubrics as well. So there's introduction paragraph, body 2 paragraph. The breakdown is slightly different here than what you'll see on the Team 3 rubric. Paragraph 3, body paragraph number 2, motivation. We have body paragraph 3, resources. And finally, paragraph number 5, the conclusion, along with some tips on MLA format, usage, and mechanics. It's always helpful to get another set of eyes. We have the same comments here that we had on the regular rubric. Okay, that's everything I've got. Good luck.